than 11,700 years ago, the Earth's geological clock suddenly struck the bell, bidding farewell to the past. The 10,000-year glaciers covering millions of square kilometers in the northern hemisphere began to collapse in an unstoppable global warming. This was not an ordinary seasonal change, but the most thrilling, epical leap in Earth's life history. As permafrost thawed, a brand new world called the Holocene was emerging from the ruins of extreme cold. The massive continental ice sheets that once weighed hundreds of millions of tons split open deep, bottomless neon blue crevasses under the sun. The surging meltwater turned into the most violent torrents on the surface, tearing apart the frozen wilderness with unstoppable force. The retreating giant glaciers ruthlessly scraped the earth, leaving eternal marks of time on the hard bedrock. As the heavy ice caps disappeared, the oppressed continental plates began to slowly rebound upward at a rate of several millimeters per year. The endless fresh water trapped in solid glaciers now poured into the ancient oceans like mountains and seas. Global sea levels rose more than 100 meters in just a few thousand years, completely submerging countless prehistoric coastal plains. Vast land bridges were completely severed, turning once connected continents into isolated islands and oceans. The link between Britain and the European continent was swallowed by surging waves, forming the turbulent English Channel we know today. The Bering Land Bridge submerged into rolling waves, leaving the Americas and Eurasia geographically isolated for a long time. The dramatic reorganization of hydrological systems irrigated vast, new, interconnected river networks across the world in the early Holocene. The desolate Ice Age landscape gradually faded, and the familiar contours of mountains and rivers on modern Earth finally took shape over time. The dramatic warming of the climate ruthlessly tolled the death knell for prehistoric giant mammals. The mammoth steppe that once spanned Eurasia rapidly disintegrated under the impact of warm, moist air currents. Tundra and forests greedily encroached on the dry, cold wilderness, leaving no place for the giant beasts accustomed to open views. The mammoths, once absolute dominators of the northern hemisphere, found their vital, hardy grasses dying in patches. Woolly rhinos struggled in the muddy, dense shrublands, their heavy bodies gradually sinking into the quagmire of the era. With the collapse of herbivore populations, saber-toothed tigers at the top of the food chain also faced their final twilight. Those unparalleled evolutionary wonders saw their populations plummet to the brink of extinction in habitats ruthlessly torn apart. The last mammoths were forced to retreat to remote Arctic islands, completing their species' swan song in loneliness and genetic degradation. This great reshuffling of the biosphere emptied nearly 2/3 of the giant animals on Earth's land at an extremely fast pace. The law of natural selection showed its fierce side again, opening up unprecedented vast ecological niches for more adaptable small creatures. Broadleaf forests and vast temperate grasslands spread across the newborn land, building a modern ecosystem of unimaginable richness. In this century of ice and fire upheaval, a highly intelligent bipedal animal welcomed a turning point in its destiny. Homo sapiens bid farewell to the dark caves sheltering from severe cold and headed toward the newly thawed unknown wilderness with unparalleled adaptability. The disappearance of giant beasts cut off past abundant meat, but also forced human diets to extend to a wider range of species. Sophisticated bows, microliths, and bone needles made late Homo sapiens who survived the crisis the deadliest predators in the New World. The warm climate allowed populations of certain annual plants to experience explosive growth in specific regions. On the fertile edges of the Middle East, known as the Fertile Crescent, wild barley and wheat blanketed the hillsides, nourished by rain. human groups weary from migration began to slow down and build semi-settled primitive villages on the banks of fertile rivers. Through long observation, gatherers finally understood the hidden mysteries of life between soil, moisture, and plant seeds. Hunting was no longer the only means of survival. Humans began trying to domesticate relatively docile wild animals. The seeds of agriculture quietly sprouted in the dawn of the Holocene, completely rewriting the million-year contract between humans and nature. From homeless wanderers to tillers of the earth, Homo sapiens were taking the first step toward human civilization. Scientists are trying to reconstruct this thrilling history of global warming from the traces left by nature. Ancient ice cores drilled from kilometers deep in Greenland are like Earth's meteorological diary left for the future. Tiny air bubbles sealed deep in the ice precisely recorded the dramatic surge in atmospheric carbon dioxide concentrations tens of thousands of years ago. Tiny pollen fossils sleeping at the bottom of lakes revealed top-secret information about ancient vegetation changes to paleoclimatologists. Radiocarbon dating is like a golden key, precisely locking in the death times of giant animals going extinct successively on different continents. Modern ancient genetics successfully pieced together migration maps of prehistoric populations under climate pressure by extracting residual DNA from fossils. Data analysis shows that the late Pleistocene extinction events were a perfect storm of dramatic climate change and frequent human hunting. Academia defines this moment 10,000 years ago as the beginning of the Holocene, one of the most precise boundaries in Earth's history. The end of that extreme cold era was not only a geographical upheaval, but also a great nirvana in the history of life's evolution. Through the study of this 10,000-year temperature curve, humans are re-examining the role we play in the current Earth ecosystem. Every rock layer sample and gene fragment repeatedly confirms that era of glacial retreat with drastic changes. The retreat of the glaciers was not the end. It merely paved the way for an even more magnificent epic of human civilization. When the severe cold faded and the Earth revived, the glorious legend of our epoch had just begun.